Hello and welcome. So this is one of my 60 inspirational and potentially life-changing conversations. Oh my gosh, some of them have been amazing. If you haven't seen them all, do check them out on my website and on YouTube because there are some amazing ones available. So today I have the delight and pleasure of being with the lovely Chetna Bhatt. So Chetna, I would love you to, we have had a few conversations. I don't know you well, but we've had some amazing conversations. So will you tell us a little bit about who you are, and let's dive in and see where this goes.
Oh, Debs, thank you so much, first of all, for having me. I just really want to say um, it's supposed to be your inspiring conversations, isn't it? And it's so cool that you're inspiring us all in what you're doing and creating here. So huge honor to be here and to be part of this project. And who am I? Oh gosh. I mean, that's such a big question. Where do I start? I'm going to start really simply and say I basically split my time between being a part-time lawyer and a coach, sharing the principles in mainly business, in the business context, but really with everyone. So that's kind of how I spend my time. But oh my goodness, have I been on a journey? And there's been so many bumps in the road, and it's just sort of shown me a deepening that's been super cool. So yeah, I think that's probably an intro that I can sit with.
So tell us a little bit about your journey, because I think like our stories are so inspiring to people, aren't they? The things, because I think even if the details of them are different, basically we all come up against things and however they present. And so I think we can hear ourselves in these stories. So tell us a little bit, about your journey, your story.
Okay, so I started off by being somebody who was, I would say, quite stereotypically as a lawyer, working long hours, but also I really saw the power of the intellect. So, like, I'd have all of these brilliant minds around me and just felt like a sense of awe with them being around me, and I'd be like, oh, wow, you're like a judge. That's amazing. So I really had this like huge reverence for the intellectual mind. It was something that really impressed me. And then beyond that, like I lived my life, as I say, it's quite typically in this as a lawyer, in the sense that I'd be kind of working long hours, I'd be setting myself goals, I'd be super ambitious. But what also kind of, if you like, went hand in hand with that was a lot of what I might describe as unhealthy patterns of thought. Like I would overanalyze absolutely everything. I would worry about absolutely everything. I would say, I remember like at work, just, oh, do you have capacity to take this on? I would always say yes, just to people please. And not even really do like a quick sense check as to like whether I actually do have capacity to do it. It was just like so important to me to be liked and to be
Yeah.
like the good girl, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
People
I
pleaser,
just
recovering people pleaser, totally. Yeah, don't care. Yeah, will you like me if I say then yes, yes.
right, and
No
that's where
checking in
I
with yeah,
and
absolutely.
like unconsciously, there's
Yeah.
such an innocence to all of this,
Oh
but
gosh, yes, yeah,
I
totally.
would, and then I'd go on and like do a piece of advice or whatever I'm working on, and I would find myself feeling like dissatisfied by it, like it's not good enough, and nothing I ever did was good enough. There would be like this stream of like beating myself up and just ideas about not being. Basically, I felt like an imposter. So there I was as a lawyer, but really feeling like I wasn't good enough. So that's kind of what life was like, and I was swimming in it, and I was super stressed, and I felt like I was throwing I've used this expression before, and it just feels so perfect because it felt like I was throwing my soul at the office door as I walked in the office.
Mm,
And then I would like put on this face of, how are you? Oh, yeah, I'm great. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
without even connecting with the truth of that.
yeah.
Again, innocently, but that's just kind of how I lived life.
Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, like really taking myself back to that because there was a real heaviness and life was really hard. Um, and then what happened next was I would like seek sort of what's the word, like respite from that by taking long lovely holidays. So like I would go, hey, I'm going to book 3 4 weeks off work, and that was like obviously quite difficult to do, to arrange that kind of thing, but it's what made sense to me, to just get away from my life. But I remember going to Nepal and I went trekking, and I remember having the most incredible scenery and feeling like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Why do I feel as stressed right now as I do at the office desk? It just baffled me. And I just couldn't get my head around it. So then, anyway, I get back to the office, and it's obviously back into the flow of, well, really, what's a deadline driven role? So, I was just getting on with the next deadline, but feeling super stressed. And then almost immediately, about a month after returning from that holiday, I fell ill, and I woke up and I felt like I had the worst flu imaginable, and I didn't know what was going on, but it was clearly life's way of saying slow down. And I then found myself basically, I actually was really energetic. As I say, I went traveling and, trekking. I was active and really enjoyed exercise, but I basically went from being like that to not being able to walk to my bathroom, and just struggling so much to even sit up in bed. It was such a weird time and scary, really scary time. And I had all of these symptoms, and I was like, when am I going to get better? And it just went on and on and on. So fast forward 4 months into this, of me being just so unwell, I'm diagnosed with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, and I didn't know what that was.
Mm.
And that was like a wake up call. And
Mm.
that was like my first big um challenge actually in life, like
Yeah,
life threw
yeah.
me
Mm.
into a particular position where I just didn't really understand. And yeah.
I guess we feel that we are indestructible when we're young and we're just doing things. We just kind of think, yeah, we can do it, we can do it, we can do it. And I really heard something and really resonated with the when you're saying that I just never checked in with myself. This
Mm.
whole it's like, no matter what somebody is asking of you, there was just no checking in there with, well, is this what I want? Am I okay with this? Can I do this? Does it even make sense to me? Just the zero checking in. And I can see that, I know, like my clients, and that is just, I don't even know where we get the idea that we can live our life like that, but there is just zero checking in with that. It's even like, if someone asks you, do you want a cup of tea? If someone asks you, do you want a drink of water? If there's just zero checking in. It's just like from the outside, what does this person want me to say so they like me? And so,
I That's exactly how I would describe it.
yeah,
And like a complete disconnection from my body.
yeah,
And it sounds really unintelligent, but I remember like having cold after cold after cold, and not even thinking, oh, wait a minute, is there something for me to listen to
yeah,
here?
yeah. I think also with things like that, we're just so much taught, oh, it's the air conditioning at work, it's the environment you're living in, it's the time of year, it's the people you're mixing, oh, it's because you're whatever. We are given these ideas that these things are completely and utterly from the outside coming at us, and that it has zero to do with who we're being and how we're showing up in life. And I don't know about you, but that's kind of how what I was brought up to believe and think, so if I didn't feel very well, because I know for me exactly the same, it was my life, and my story is completely different. But as I said, when you're sort of saying that about not checking in, that is really hitting on me. I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And then I used to suffer from really, really, really bad headaches and really, really, really bad allergies. I was literally allergic to anything and everything. And it was all like the headaches. I mean, people did say it was, oh yeah, it's because you've got the kids and you're busy and this sort of thing. But there was never any you're not checking in with yourself. You're not, that never occurred to me. It's crazy. It does sound crazy, doesn't it?
It is crazy. And at the same time, I kind of think that's kind of almost what society does to us, isn't
Yeah,
it? Like there's
yeah,
always like these external things that you can hang it on.
yeah,
And so there's excuses or there's reasons and basically externally, there's always something you can attribute it to.
yes, yes.
And so for me at the time, I would have said to you, well, don't you know what it's like to be a lawyer? Don't you know how stressful that is? So don't you know how normal this is?
Yeah.
I'm just doing my best in a really stressful job. Do you see what I
Mhm.
mean? That would be
Yeah,
my
yeah.
explanation.
And this is what, yeah, we absolutely whatever. Because for me, it would be like, yeah, I've got 3 kids. What do you
Yeah,
expect? It's
exactly.
like,
Go
yeah,
figure.
yeah, it's
Duh.
not rocket science. I've got 3 small kids. It's like that, isn't it? There is never any, yeah, it didn't occur to me, and I can see the same. It didn't occur to me that, yeah, you might have 3 kids, but you never ever check in with yourself. You never think about what is right for you. You never look at what's going on for you first. You just, if someone asks you something, it's a yes. If that's what you think, if they're asking by virtue of the fact they're asking, they clearly want you to do this. So your answer is yes, because you want them to like you. That's
And
it.
that's the level of
Yeah,
analysis.
yeah, that's the criteria.
It's exactly that. And then I would have, oh my goodness, some sort of tsunami of thought around how the hell I was going to do it. And like, oh my God, what will they think of this? And yeah, everything, really. Everything. You name it, I found everything to worry about. It was exhausting. Um, and so falling ill was the first time that I asked myself questions
Mm,
that where am I at and what's going on here? And is this, yeah, like it was almost like, yeah, I went inside for the first time.
yes.
This then led me on a journey of what I might describe as seeking. So I then, you name it, I was interested in it if there was any hope in it. So it doesn't really provide answers. But I took what it gave me, if that makes sense. So I was like, okay, there's this thing called pacing where I have to be really careful about how much I do each day. Okay, I'll take it on. Like, what else you got? So I did everything that anyone would say to me that might be useful in my recovery. And oh my goodness, I had like a list as long as my arm in terms of like how I then went on to live life. Like I would be interested in affirmations, I would be interested in yoga, I'd be interested in meditation, I'd be interested in uh, EFT, I'd be interested, like there was just so many things that I went on to explore. And even though my body wasn't working, my mind was as active as ever and as interested and curious as ever. So I even did like every weekend course that was going. I live in London, and so there isn't a workshop in London, I don't think, that I've not been to. Um, and so this was just really normal for me. I would just go off and like just soak up everything. And I had a daily routine that was pretty fixed in terms of what I needed to do to be well. So I thought I had it nailed, actually. And if you'd spoken to me at the time, I would say, "Hey, I know what you need to do to get better, like if or just feel good in life." And then I would give you a long list to do list on what to do. And so this all felt very like real and helpful. And but it was, yeah, it was like a job on top of a job. And eventually, of course, I did go back into work, but I was on a phased return, so I was going very gently. And I basically signed up to a coach training course. And I did that because I was getting really interested in psychology and I was really interested in the mind. And as I say, I was desperate for answers. So there I was thinking, well, I remember even speaking to the lady who signed me up saying, will this help me get better? Will I have shifts in my health? Okay, great, I'll do it. So it was that really. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? That my
yeah,
drive
yeah.
for everything. And this went on for years. And I eventually obviously qualified as a coach thinking, wow, this is quite helpful. I think I could help other people. So again, another strategy that I would take into my toolbox was coaching, because I thought, well, actually, this is helping me. I actually feel good when I'm
Mm.
coaching.
Mm.
And it just so happens I'm helping others too. So this, as I say, went on for years. And I think I was pretty good. Like, if you'd had spoken to me at the time, I'd have said, yeah, you can give me a medal for this. So then what changed was I went on to another workshop, as I did at the time. This was a coaching workshop. And by this time, I'd already hired a coach who was really helping me create a business that was based on love and service. And so I was really interested to hear the speakers who were coming to London from America. And at this workshop that was mind-blowing, it was just so great. I met somebody who just, it felt like she was speaking like a foreign language, to be perfectly frank. She was talking about spirituality in leadership, and I thought that was a really interesting topic. And I was listening to what she was saying, but I didn't really understand anything that she was really saying. So I don't know what then happened, but as I say, the workshop was great. And then I reached out to her after and I said, I don't know what you said, but I was really interested and want to hear more. When can I talk to you again? So then we arranged to talk again. And it was really funny because I remember like creating a list of all of the questions that I had for her, like how do I get better still? Like I still wasn't well, and all these questions anyway that were present for me at that point in life. And like within a minute of speaking to her, I was like, I don't even care what you have to say. I know I've got everything inside of me. I was like, how the hell did you just do that to me? I literally just like put my piece of paper on the floor, like didn't care to look at it. So something again just got me really curious about whatever she was talking about. So I ended up anyway working with her. And I went on a journey of, deepening into this. What she was talking about was the principles, and I didn't know that at the time. But it was an understanding of the mind, of course, which, as I say, I was there just not understanding it. But I remember finding it really frustrating. I'd come out of a session and I was so used to being articulate. Um,
Yeah.
everything. I was just like, ugh. Don't know, feel good, don't know. So that went on for a while. Um, Fast forward, I then came across a research study into chronic fatigue syndrome using this
Mm.
understanding. So this was like maybe over a year of being involved in the conversation already and not being well. So I thought, well, what have I got to lose? I must have spent goodness knows how much money at this point trying to get better. And years had gone by, like well over 5 years of being unwell. And as I say, I had my to-do list. So I got myself to about 80% functioning for a number of
Yeah.
those years,
Yeah.
but I wasn't well. So I get into this study, and we're right at the beginning of the study, we're asked to write a list of the things that we're restricted and limited by. So I had a long list, like I can't do this and I can't do that. There was just so many things that everyday people do that I just still couldn't do, including exercise. Like I couldn't really run for, say, even 15 minutes, which was, something that was easy for me to before,
Mhm.
without a whole host of symptoms. So anyway, and I remember my sister as well, conversations with her, she'd go, oh my God, I've just discovered this thing called spinning. And I'd be like, that sounds amazing. And it's just like totally out of reach for me. Anyway, I go on to this study and we're having conversations. And I remember, and I'm not exaggerating, it was week 3, and I have a coaching conversation as part of this program. And I hear something that felt like really huge, and I just needed to sit with it. And I don't know what words were used, but in this coaching call, what I discovered is that my everyday thinking about what I could and couldn't do, which had gone on for years. So I was in the habit of, can I do this? Can't I do this? If I go for dinner, I'm just going to be more ill, blah, blah, blah. It went on. I didn't realize that that was keeping my fight
Oh,
or flight state triggered, and that it was essentially keeping me in a state of red alert, creating very real physiological
yeah.
symptoms. So my insight was, oh, what I thought was keeping me 80% functioning is actually the very thing that's keeping me unwell. And it was like,
Yeah, it's huge. It is like that whole, okay, don't think of the pink elephant, don't think of the pink elephant, don't think of the pink elephant. Yeah, how long's it been since I thought of the pink elephant? I've had at least an hour when I didn't think of the pink elephant. Wow, I think I had 2 hours yesterday. I think I had 2.5 hours the other day when I didn't think of the pink. I'm getting better. Yeah, this whole, right, let's check in. I'll set an alarm so I can check in whether I've been thinking about a pink elephant again. It's that, isn't it? In one sentence. It's
like so much innocence because it came from a
yeah,
good place. And at the same time, I didn't know this is the impact. This is
yeah,
the, like, our thoughts create, like affect our biochemistry. I had
yeah.
no appreciation of
Mm.
that. And I didn't know really any of what I just saw that day. I didn't really know any of it. So I just kind of went off into life, and I knew I was healed instantly. Instantly. And you might have said to me at the time, Chetna, you're mad. You've been ill. You've still got symptoms. Slow down. Like, are you not getting a bit overexcited here? But I knew in the, like, so deeply inside of me, with every bone of my like in my body, I just knew I was well. And then I was in a supermarket, and somebody said to me, I'm trying to decide like which smell to get. Could you help me? I really have trouble sleeping. Shall I get lavender? Shall I get da da da? She said, you see, the thing is, I've got ME. And the words just spilled out of my mouth. I used to have that. And I was like, did you just say used to? It was bizarre. Like, but this is kind of how it happened. There was like an unfolding of me needing to almost get used to it myself, because I've walked around with this ME label.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was ready to let it go,
Mm.
even though I knew inside of me I was well.
Yes,
There was
yes,
like a bit of resistance.
yeah, yeah, I hear you.
So I was actually like kind of in this weird transition of knowing I was healed, but actually not quite being ready to live this new life of being well. But I went about life without even needing to test, what I'd put on the list at the beginning of the study. And I just went on about life without any limitations. Like if I wanted to go for a walk, I'd go for a walk. If I wanted to go for a run, I'd go for a run. Like there was just there was no limitations. So I remember then going on a family, like we had a weekend together. It was Easter. And I said, hey guys, let's walk. My sister lives in Wales. And I said, let's walk up the Welsh hills. And they all kind of looked at each other as if like Chetna's not, like, what's wrong with her? And I was like, no, it's good, guys. I'm good. Let's go. So we walk up this hill that's like, quite significant in Wales. It's quite a challenge. And yeah, I was absolutely fine, but the emotional, like I felt really emotional at the top, because what I did, it was like a validation of
Yeah,
my healing.
yeah. Wow.
And then like the symptoms actually continued for maybe like 2 months. It was meaningless to me. Like the symptoms didn't mean anything. And I just eventually, I guess my nervous system calmed down,
Yeah.
and I was magically healed completely.
I think that bit is the place where people get tripped up a bit. It's like you say that the symptoms carried on for a couple of months. And what I see, like, I'm all about creation and how we create and that sort of thing. And I really see it's that place when we begin to see that our thoughts have created this, and then we say, okay, I can think differently. And absolutely we can put, like, instead of going, have I thought of a pink elephant? When was the last time I thought of a pink elephant? We can just go, oh yeah, let's think about zebras. Let's just forget about it. Let's just think about zebras. But at some point it's like, I'm sure I saw a pink elephant then. And it's like, how do I ignore those pink elephants when they still seem to be there? But it is this, like when there is a knowing within us, because I can see that, you know, with the land, with buying the land, it's like, I know this is going to happen. So then when things were coming up and it looked like there wasn't enough money and it looked like it couldn't happen, it looked like it wasn't possible, it's like I didn't have to buy into that and take as much note like before. And I would take tons of notice of that and get panicked. And how do I deal with that? And what do I do about that thinking? And it's just like, well, you just know it's going to sort itself out. So there isn't there's just nothing to do apart from just know you've got that thinking and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's exactly that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, even when I'd had my insight, I still had the thoughts, oh, but are you going to be okay to do that? Are you going to be okay? Are you going to be okay? But what was interesting was it no longer had the same hold on me.
Mm,
So it was like data that would just come and go in my mind
yeah.
that I no longer thought was important information for me to listen to.
Yes. Yeah. 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 And when this is it, when you can completely switch how you see it, it completely switches what it is. And that's what that's what I can see, you know, with the land, it's like, you know, this is going to work out. So, whereas in the past, it'd be like, oh, you know, you're not going to have the money or you're not going to be able to do this. Then it would, like you say, that would look like important information that I had to do something about. And this was just like, well, you just know it's going to happen. So yeah, it's just there, but
Right.
who cares?
I think this is the magic of insight because it's almost like we go through life with all kinds of different flavors of this, but like, are we going to take the bait on it? And in some respects, we just always do take the bait because we haven't had that magic insight. But when we have that insight, it's so deep rooted, it doesn't make sense anymore to listen
Mm.
because it's so deep in you that you've seen it's like lost its value.
Yeah, yeah. And I definitely think then, like from playing in different arenas, because my insights were definitely around relationships. And then, like with this, it's like it we're looking at principles here, and principles are just truth that don't change. And they are things, you know, when you look at physics principles, you can apply them anywhere. It's like they that's how they work. It doesn't make any difference. That's how it is. It's like, you know, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It just changes, and that doesn't matter what it is you're doing. You know, if you the energy of a tree, if you chop down a tree and then you burn it and then it's just it looks like it's something completely different, but the principles behind the physics principles of this are the same. It's like, yeah, that was the energy of a tree, and now it's the energy of heat or ash or logs or whatever, you know, it's just moving from one thing to another. And for me, what I see is really, really helpful is I had those insights around relationships, and then with the money stuff and what I'm up to in now, it's kind of like the principles are the same. The principle is always true. So it's like what I saw exactly like you described, something deep inside me about my relationships changed and shifted, and I just wasn't seeing it the same way. And then I noticed I was struggling with money, and it's just like, yeah, you're seeing money this way. And it's like, so if you see it differently, so you can almost when you see how it works as well, I think, I mean, insights are absolutely brilliant and we have them. And I almost think then when we put ourselves on that path, the insights come in there as well. They come, but it is just like, yeah, this is the same thing is happening. Like when I saw it was my thoughts that were the problem with my relationship, not my relationship, not the other person, not anything like this. It's like, oh yeah, it's your thoughts that are the problems around your money, not money or what's going on or what you can afford or seemingly can't afford. It's like the principles are the same. And I think if we are prepared to, I guess that was an insight seeing that. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, the same.
Yeah.
It's the same everywhere.
You know what just occurred to me as you were speaking? It's so cool to see how it is just one of those, you can rely on this to be true.
Yeah.
You can rely on it to you that you will be subject to it, whether you believe it or not. And you can also guarantee that, you know, you'll feel the effects of it, no matter what,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not.
Mm.
And I guess it was just so true to me that when it comes to thought, that in particular, when I talk about this insight in particular, if you don't understand what's really being said, it can be misunderstood, and
Mm.
it can almost sound offensive.
Yeah.
So, so it was really cool because the way in which they did this with me, like if you had said to me at the time, "Oh, this is all thought created," that would have made me maybe even want to punch you. Like I wouldn't have been happy to hear that because
Mm.
my symptoms were so real
Yeah.
and everything was just like my world was so real and I was suffering. And what was cool was that I saw that this is just the vehicle or like the mechanism through which we experience anything and everything.
Mm.
There's no kind of offense to be taken from that.
No.
It's just how it works.
Yeah. And everybody who's in that situation is doing the same, because I know very often, like with illness and things like this, or any of these things really, but like I can see it around the relationships as well. Like when you're saying, it's like I saw that me being in an abusive relationship was about my thinking. And it's like, well, no, surely that's about stuff that's going on here. And it's like, no, if you are thinking different, you are a different person. Like I can see the person that I am now could not be in an abusive relationship. It couldn't happen. And it's like, because my consciousness, who I am, the energy that I am, that couldn't happen. And so it's like, if I wasn't that person, so it's like that's how it happens. And like you can't, as the person that you are now, you can't have that illness. But if you went back to that level of consciousness, that way of thinking, then you would be. And like you say, that is just how it works. It's not an insult. It's not like saying something, oh, so you're stupid because you think like that. And it doesn't, we all think in that is totally innocent. We all think in the way we think until we understand and see something and it makes sense to us to think differently. We can't think differently. But equally, once it makes sense and we understand it, we can't think the way that we thought. Like I could no more think the way that I used to think about relationships. If you said to me, think like this, it'd be like, well, I just can't. I can't get my head around thinking that way. So
Yeah.
once you've sort of shifted out of it, you can't. I mean, I can see, I'm pretty certain about, I mean, I can see that when my consciousness drops, sometimes if I am tired or whatever, if my consciousness levels drop, we talked about earlier, the whole people pleasing and not checking in with ourselves. I can see that is a pattern of mine. If I allow myself to go there, that would be my kind of go-to. But it is like I could no more think like I used to think all those years ago. Now it would not make any sense to me whatsoever. And so it is very much, yeah, it's not. And I guess in one sense it is like, if we do hear it as offensive and take offense and stay where we are, then we stay where we are. But a little bit like when you were searching for something different, and I know me around relationships, it's like I need something different, and everything else, with real love and the best will in the world, people that I had spoken to who were still insisting that I was a victim of something someone else had done. It was like, yeah, but where does that leave me? It's kind of like, and on the one hand, it's kind of like, yeah, great, it wasn't my fault, but I don't see this as my fault. But what I see is I am the one who can change it. I am the one in the driving seat here. I am the one who can look in this direction and see something and create something different. So it's actually really empowering when we see that.
Yeah, like if we
Kicker.
are, yeah, it's like, oh, if we hold the paintbrush,
Oh,
oh, we just paint a different picture.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
And it really is that. And so And it makes it sound so simple, but actually it is.
Yeah.
And we can innocently make it complicated. I do. I still do. You know, every now and then I'll absolutely give you a very real, a good logical rationale as to why I should feel annoyed about them. And you would feel that that was compelling and true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and you know, and that's how it works. Like I kind of go
Mm.
in and out of seeing this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, if we went to the cinema and watched a film and we're sat there and we're not taken in by the film and we're not rooting for the good guy and against the villain or whatever, if we're not like that, it's not a good film. We're not enjoying ourselves. And life, this has the best effects team. And it's like, yeah, and life would be no fun if we never bought into the love that we can have and other people and what this is. If we didn't buy into it, it would be no fun at all. But it is, for me, actually understanding, like I can see I have deeper love and connection and a gorgeous relationship with my partner because of the knowing of how this works. It's because I know it's not his job to make me happy, and yet I play the game that he makes me really, really happy. We both kind of play. I know for me, the only person that can make me happy is me, and that's my job. And it's like, so my kind of thing with relationships is, yeah, the only person that can make me happy is me, and that's my job. And I'm going to go all out to make Russ the happiest I can possibly make him, whilst knowing I have zero power to make him happy. And that's, and we both kind of play that game, and it really, really, really works well. But it's a huge part of it is the knowing that how this works. I'm going to feel great if I am thinking great thoughts. I'm going to feel pretty shitty if I'm thinking pretty shitty thoughts. And
That's so cool. I love that you had that complete transformation. I think in the context of relationships in particular, it's so easy to think that other people are making you feel a particular way.
oh gosh, yeah.
It's like it's totally hidden, isn't it? And
Yes.
invisible. And so you just don't see it doing its thing. And as I say, like it's so easy to think that it's them. And that works both ways, whether that's feeling rubbish or feeling great. Like, especially when you fall in love, like, oh, this is them. No, it's even then, it's entirely us.
Yeah,
It's so cool to see that we really do hold the power.
yeah. It's beautiful to see that, and then to step into owning that, and then notice those moments, when it's like, no, I reckon this is really him. And those moments when I want it to be him.
Yeah.
Are you sure he can't be to blame for this?
Well, you know what? Sometimes I'm like, no, let me hang out with my blind spot. This looks real, and I'm good with that. But yeah, so that was like the really cool insight that I had. But then it kind of there was another part to it, and that was this intelligence that we've been talking about. And so what was so cool about that was there I was thinking that it's only when you have your ducks in a row that you can feel well.
Mm.
And suddenly I had a complete 180 on that and saw that actually I remember feeling like, oh, I have my own personal medicine cabinet inside of me. I don't need anything out there. It's all in me. And that was like so incredibly settling. So if you can imagine, I had like these really fixed ideas about how to get my well-being, and I was on a journey of just continuously searching for that. So suddenly all of that dropped away. And yeah, my goodness, like so much less hard work. I could just surrender to whatever wanted to like come up and and accept that in
Mm.
a whole new way.
That is huge, I think, as well. That, yeah, that the possibility of surrendering, because I think that's what I certainly, for me, I can only speak to me, I can see that's what looked unacceptable to me, surrendering to what is. I don't think so. I need to be
I'm in
doing,
charge.
and I need to be doing, and I need to be sorting out, and I need to be holding on, not surrendering, but actually seeing that. I mean, surrender is a huge key. And I think for me as well, it's understanding, what does that actually mean? And definitely lately, that's been something I've really been playing with. What does surrender actually mean? And I guess moving the understanding from places where I'd had huge insights to places, to blind spots and places where I wasn't seeing it. It's like, okay, so I can see in exactly like you described, when it was like those thoughts were there about not feeling well, but I just didn't care. And that's surrender. It's just like I'm not interacting with those thoughts, because when I'm guessing some sort of form of before, when those thoughts came, when it looks like they're important and there's something we need to do about it, we energetically engage with them. We give them power and life. And surrender is allowing them to be there. Or certainly this is what I have found and seen recently. It's like surrender actually is when we don't interact them, when we don't give them our power at all, when it's just like, oh yeah, there's the thought about illness, or there's the thought about relationship stuff, it's his fault, or whatever it happens to be. And it's just like when we give them zero interaction, when we're just like, I'm just not interested in that. Like, it's our consciousness, it's our power that brings these things to life. And so to me, the surrendering and the letting go, and this is the stepping back from that temptation, if you like, to be, oh, I've had a thought about the illness again. Oh, well, what do I do about that then? How do I deal with it? What do I do? And it's like we are actually giving life to that, and surrendering to what is like, yeah, I've had a thought about illness and moving on, I'm doing this and this is happening, and just not giving that any life whatsoever. And I think, when, for me, moving what I have learned and seeing them as principles and seeing this works in different arenas, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm giving that a ton of attention. And what I see in the relationships where this is going really, really well, if I have the thought, Russ shouldn't, add whatever you want at the end of it, it's just like, what? Moving on, zero interest in that thought. And yet, in an arena where I've got a blind spot, I have a thought, you can't afford that. It's like, oh my gosh, God, what do I do? Da, da, da. Tons and tons and tons of energy to that thought. And it's like, if I stop giving it my attention, my energy, something new, when we look, yeah, what is behind this mind, the kindness of the design, the beauty that is here, God, whatever you want to call it, when we give it zero energy, it's like something else arises, something totally new, something different, something beautiful that we had never seen before. And those things to me look like real personal gifts that are perfect for us in that moment, in that situation, that nothing else could have given you that. And it's just like you come up with an idea of what you will say in that moment, if it's a relationship thing, or what you will do, or whatever. That is what arises or appears or comes. And that is all part of the beauty of the design too.
I love that. Yeah, thanks for sharing, because I was just thinking how, like when I stopped engaging in those thoughts, again, realizing that it just didn't make sense to do that anymore, but well-being filled its place.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, it turns out that when I don't take the bait on whatever wants to have me go down a rabbit hole, apparently there's something really beautiful that can take over. And you're absolutely right. Like, where our focus goes, energy flows. And I see the evidence of that time and again every day. And what is really interesting is I kind of gone through life, obviously with life happening, and I saw this huge stuff in my health arena. But then, you know, as I say, life happens. And then I go on to lose my dad. And suddenly I'm like faced with, oh, there's like real pain here and real kind of turmoil.
Mm.
And that even that apparently can be accompanied when there's just complete surrender to whatever wants to come. Like I would prefer not to feel that pain. I would prefer not to feel that, right? So if I were to be in a fight with that, I'm actually just perpetuating it. But what, and I don't kind of see it as that because it's just like an insight. So it's not like I'm applying some sort of tool when this arises, but there's a natural surrendering that occurred when that happened. And it turns out that it passed through quicker. There's no doubt it passed through quicker than it would have otherwise. And it turns out that I was able to simultaneously hold peace and clarity and love and also the pain of loss. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. Do you see what I mean? So, like, there's always insight available to me as life happens with the magic of this and the depth of it. And I just really wanted to share that because to some degree, I'm like, you know, putting on an experiment in life where I'm testing the hypothesis. Oh, is it true here? Oh, is it true here? Oh, is it true? Surely it's not true here. Well, you know what? Because everyone's society tells us bereavement is definitely like, okay, if you buy into that you've got your mind at play when it comes to your health or with relationships, you certainly don't buy into it being the case with bereavement. That's certainly like my interpretation of what society says. And guess what? It's just true there too. And I've seen that to be true.
That's the whole principle things, isn't it? That's like if something is a principle, no matter where you apply it, it's a principle. And that's the definition of a principle. It's like if it, I mean, there is truth, and then there are things that are true. Like it is true that we are on a call together here, but this isn't truth because it will change. There will be a time when we're not on this call together, so
Yeah,
it
love
will no
that.
longer be true. And then but truth, and that to me is a principle. It's like that just won't change. So
Yeah,
there's I call it truth within the illusion, if you like, because it's true for a minute and then it's not true, and all of this kind of stuff. And that changeable truth, they're not principles, but principles are things that are unchanging. And to me, the word God, works, mind, whatever, the universe, whatever you call it, that's an unchanging principle. And what we are pointing to here is that's what it is. It's a truth. So it doesn't matter where you put it. There isn't anywhere. If there is somewhere, if this doesn't work in bereavement, then it's not a principle. It's not an absolute truth. And what I have seen as well in my playing, working out, well, is it here? Are you sure it's here? Are you sure it's here? It's like there's nowhere that this isn't. And so to me, that's what absolutely has me knowing that we are dealing with principles. And then to me, all it is the understanding of that. It's like, so okay, because like you said, when you first heard about this sort of thing and then you came out, and I can remember the same. It's like somebody said, well, what do you mean? And it felt like I said I have no idea how to put this into words. I don't know how to say it. And so it is like the conveying in a way that somebody else can understand what it is you're saying, what these principles are, because with them being spiritual truth, they are beyond words very, very often. It is a feeling, a knowing within us, something that the logical mind can't comprehend. But absolutely, what I see again and again and again, they're definitely, we've had this conversation. I've had tons of conversations, and there is a way in which we can speak about it enough that people can see it and understand and cotton on to it. But absolutely, what we are talking about, what we are pointing to, are principles. So there is Doesn't matter whether it's your health, your finances, your relationships, bereavements. There is nowhere that this same thing doesn't apply.
Isn't it incredible? It's absolutely true without exception. And as you say,
Yeah.
it's permanent. It's a constant. And I'm so much more interested in that than I am the temporary with this understanding. You know, like I can be with what's temporary in a new way because I can look in the direction of the permanent. And it's really cool as well because, as you say, it's beyond the words, and there's something so powerful about the feeling behind the words, and not even really the unknown, like not knowing what the hell is going to happen next. You know, like what's even going to come out of my mouth next? There's so much kind of a surrender again to the unknown in that, but also in the workplace for me, I actually fell in love with being a lawyer. It was like I had fresh eyes and found a new way of being with all of the same things going on around me. So externally everything was the same, but
Yeah.
internally I was fresh
Yeah.
and new. And there I was suddenly not placing the same reverence on my intellect and suddenly seeing, oh, there's something so much more beautiful and deeper. And actually, it's like when I'm working from that space, it's like I do a whip around the library and my intellect is just one section.
Yeah.
There's like amazing magic where I'll feel more creative or innovative or connected or just have clarity. And that to me now is where the magic is. So suddenly it's like, oh yeah, but they're intellectual, but are they wise? See what I mean? Like even what impresses me or I'm interested in is different.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. You know, there's our intellect is great. You know, I love, love, love being human. And definitely, you know, the creation piece for me is creating from an understanding and a foundation, if you like, of the principles is what makes it fun, because it is, yeah, this the creation in that sense is the temporary. It is what changes, but a little bit like you've shifted your reverence, if you like, from the intellect to this deeper knowing. To me, it is like, yeah, the intellect is it's still fascinating, it's still brilliant, and there are some brilliant minds out there, and wow, but it is, yeah, that but there is something, there is like a rock, a solid foundation that is something more than that. And if we place everything, like your story just says, this is what's going to happen to you if you place absolutely if you place all your bets on the intellect, you're not
Yeah.
placing it in the right place, but it's still something great. And that
Oh,
for me is, you know, the land and the house and the business and the relationships and what we're doing here out in the world is the temporary. And having, when I was trying to do that temporary stuff, believing that, like you, believing that the intellect is all there is and that's the best and that's the greatest that we can do, I got into real trouble. But since coming across the principles and having like a solid, like when I'm building my house, I can really say this is really important that we do the groundwork and the solid bit at the bottom here, right? Otherwise, at some point, our house is going to fall down on us. And it's like seeing that and seeing, yeah, this gives us such a solid foundation to have this fun on top of. And that to me is like, yeah, I can create this stuff now because I can continually look back to this foundation that is just, it's true. And then what changes and what comes and goes is the fun bit. That's the fun of being human.
yeah, totally agree with you, Debs. I almost feel like I was like this before with just looking at the intellect, and then it just became
Yeah.
more expansive.
Yeah.
And there's like an appreciation for everything actually that comes
Yeah.
from an
Yeah.
appreciation, and I'm able to see the beauty in everything. So even everything, like I described my million workshops from before, like even that, I'm able to look at I can take what I like from all of it.
Yes. Yes.
and what works for me, and not just go, oh, do you think that works? Oh, well, if you work for you, it'll obviously work for me. Like,
Mm.
it's like I have a different navigation now, and
Mm.
that's entirely internal. And I can play from there in whichever direction I like.
Mm.
What a
Yeah.
beautiful foundation.
It's gorgeous, isn't it? Because we each and every one of us, like we are sparks of the divine, and we're different aspects of that. And so it is, you know, who I am and who you are. There are differences here. I will have my preferences. You will have yours. And I know, like when I was deep into people pleasing, it would just be like, oh no, what does Chetna prefer? Because clearly what she prefers is right, and I've got to prefer what she prefers. And that zero checking in with actually what do you like, and definitely dare to be you, really seeing actually the world is a better place when I admire and love Chetna for what she has reverence for and loves and enjoys, and I have total respect for what I love and enjoy too. And that there's neither one of us, for ages I had this whole idea of I there is a right and there is a wrong, and I need to find what this right is. And when I find what this right is, and it's like now I just see there's a right for you and there's a right for me. So I don't have to, I search inwardly for what is right for me and then just have total respect for what is right for you. It doesn't make you wrong if that's different. So yeah, it's a beautiful foundation to live from.
I love that. I really love that. And it's almost like there's a natural buoyancy with our self-esteem, right? So from living in this space, like when you're talking about people pleasing, which of course I absolutely was too, it's like I was just so filled with insecurity. And actually there was definitely a natural calibration, if I can put it that way. I don't know what the best words might be, but I suddenly had like regard for myself, and I was able to check in with myself and a new connection with myself
Mm.
that I didn't have prior, or at least it didn't seem like I did. And that also carries less judgment of myself and of others. So when you were talking about loving others, no matter where they're at, like that's part and parcel of it, is that's how it feels to me.
Absolutely, yeah. Allowing everyone to be who they are. Like
And
it's not our job to make people be different. It doesn't look like that to me. Not anymore, anyway. And it's not my job to make me be different if there's something that I love and is alive in me, respect that.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, chills. I love that, Deb.
I could carry on talking to you forever and ever and ever, but can you believe how much time has passed since we've been talking? That was amazing. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for sharing your journey and what you have been through and what you've seen. It's hugely inspiring. So
Thank you.
if people want to get in touch with you, we will put some show notes below this, absolutely. But if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way? Where can they find you, reach out to you?
I have a website, beinglawyers.com, and that's definitely the best place to reach me. So yeah, please do if that speaks to you. And such an honor and a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for having me and playing with me.
Oh, thank you. It was lovely. It was a great exploration. I love how different all of these conversations are, how every single one of them has real gold and some beautiful insights and life-changing potential, and yet no two of them are the same. That's principles for you. So thank you so much. Thank you.